intentionally when I was pregnant, hid. Not because I was embarrassed. I was growing a human inside of me. I want to enjoy eating my In-N-Out burger and my hot fudge sundae. That's what I want to do. I'm pregnant and I have 9 months to own it. You really think I'm going to be on an Egyptian plane while I am wanting to be with my In-N-Out burger and my chocolate milkshake? No.
Shocking footage has resurfaced showing Erika joking about rented babies, and now the internet isn't staying quiet anymore. What started as small chatter has grown into loud debate about whether the public story surrounding Erika and Charlie's children truly lines up. This is no longer just comment section gossip. It has turned into widespread online speculation about what's real and what might have been misunderstood. Some people are now asking a serious question. Was Erika ever actually pregnant, or were the children part of a carefully managed public image? That's the discussion spreading across social platforms right now. In earlier interviews, Erika openly stated she had 2 C-sections and even mentioned she wasn't sure about having more kids. At the time, that seemed consistent. But after Charlie's passing, her tone shifted. She began saying she had always dreamed of having 4 children. That noticeable change has caused online observers to revisit older interviews and compare them with newer statements, trying to understand what may have evolved. Then there's the timeline debate. Certain followers claim that photos Erika posted of her children don't perfectly align with the reported birth dates. Online communities have been lining up captions, event appearances, and archived posts to see if everything fits together. Whether those comparisons are fully accurate or not, the discussion continues to grow. And once something starts trending, it spreads fast. One of the biggest points critics raise is the absence of visible pregnancy photos. In an era where public figures often document life milestones, some find that unusual. There are no widely circulated maternity shoots, no clear baby bump updates.
Intentionally when I was pregnant, hid. Not because I was embarrassed. Not because I didn't want anyone. Yes, we did keep it very private, but it's because it was a moment very sacred. I was growing a human inside of me. My baby.
No casual snapshots confirming those months. Supporters argue that privacy is a valid choice. Critics argue it stands out, especially given how visible Erika has been in other parts of her life. Erika has addressed this directly. She says she chose to stay out of the spotlight during both pregnancies to protect her peace and her family. For many, that explanation makes sense. Others feel it contrasts with her active public presence before and after those periods. That contrast is what keeps fueling the conversation. If the online rented babies theory had any truth behind it, it would raise difficult questions about what Charlie knew. Realistically, concealing 2 full pregnancies within a marriage would be extremely challenging. That leads to 2 possibilities. Either the rumors are completely misplaced, or there are details the public simply doesn't have. At this moment, there is no verified evidence confirming any of the speculation. Still, the combination of resurfaced footage, timeline debates, and changing statements has created an intense online storm. The video many are now discussing dates back to 2015. It shows Erika on a filming set for what appears to be a television role. The caption reportedly read that one perk of playing a young mom on TV was hourly baby rentals. On the surface, that could easily be interpreted as a lighthearted comment about working with infants during filming. But context shifts perception. Years later, that caption is being viewed through a different lens. Some online users now question whether that old post connects in any way to current speculation about her children. They point again to the absence of widely shared pregnancy photos. In today's digital world, especially for public personalities, major life events are often documented. Critics claim there isn't a single clear image publicly showing Erika visibly pregnant, not a widely circulated maternity photo.
The other day she was like, "Tell me about Daddy's day in heaven." So we talk about that at night. And then sometimes I'll say, "Well, tell me what you think he did in heaven today." And I just try to make it exciting, because heaven's our home. And so I just want her to know that Daddy is having so much fun and building a place for her and our family.
Not a casual update. That absence has become central to the discussion. There is also a short ultrasound clip that has circulated online. Observers have noted formatting details in the sonogram image, including how the name appears on the screen. Some claim the name displayed differs slightly from what they expected, and others point out what they believe are missing formatting elements. However, medical systems can vary, and formatting differences alone don't confirm anything. Still, when small details are layered together, online communities often build broader narratives. Erika has maintained that she stayed out of public view during pregnancy for personal reasons. On its own, that explanation is reasonable. Many families choose privacy, especially regarding children. Critics, however, question why certain moments, such as hospital photos or newborn images, were later shared while the pregnancy itself remained unseen. They describe that as selective sharing. Supporters say people are overanalyzing normal privacy boundaries. Another layer involves Erika's public image before those pregnancies. She previously appeared in modeling work and reality television. That background doesn't conflict with later seeking privacy, but some followers feel the contrast makes the complete absence during pregnancy more noticeable. Scrutiny increased significantly after Charlie's passing. Erika shared emotional updates online and participated in memorial-related events. Observers documented those appearances closely. Because of that visibility, some critics find it hard to reconcile a total 9-month disappearance from public view.
You guys aren't done, are you?
We might have one more.
Okay.
I'm kind of torn. The only reason why I'm torn is because I had C-sections for both. So I'm like, how many more times does Charlie need to see my organs? So, I mean, we'll see.
Twice, supporters respond that pregnancy is deeply personal and different from other public moments. It's important to remember how quickly speculation can escalate online. A caption from 2015, an ultrasound clip, missing public photos, and perceived inconsistencies have merged into a larger narrative. There is no confirmed proof of wrongdoing. Yet the conversation continues because not everyone feels satisfied by the explanations provided. The situation intensified further when Candace Owens claimed that an eyewitness allegedly saw Erika at Fort Huachuca 2 days before Charlie's passing. That statement immediately triggered debate. In August, response, a Turning Point spokesperson, Andrew Colt, released a photo presented as an alibi, reportedly showing Erika at home with her children on September 8th. That development added another layer to an already complex online discussion, and as more details circulate, public curiosity remains high. At first glance, the released photo should have quieted the debate. Instead, it triggered even closer inspection. Viewers immediately zoomed in, comparing details. The child in the image appeared to some observers to look closer to preschool age. Based on the public timeline, however, Charlie's son was reportedly born in May 2024, which would have made him around 16 months old at that time. Critics argue that even a tall toddler wouldn't typically resemble a 3- or 4-year-old. That perception alone has kept speculation alive. Another pattern people have pointed out involves how Erika speaks about her children in interviews. Some viewers say she often describes her daughter in detailed, emotional ways, while references to her son appear less frequent. Supporters argue that storytelling style varies, and that parents naturally share different anecdotes about each child.
You did get married.
Yes.
You have 2 kids.
2 precious babies.
And you told me this in private, but how many kids did you guys want to have?
We wanted to have 4. Yeah. And I was praying to God that I was pregnant when he got murdered.
Skeptics, however, see this as another piece in what they describe as an inconsistent narrative. The timeline discussions extend beyond that photo. When Charlie was still alive, Erika publicly stated that she had C-sections for both children. She spoke about the recovery process and suggested it influenced her uncertainty about expanding her family. That seemed relatable. C-sections are significant procedures, and healing can be both physically and emotionally demanding. What stood out to some listeners, though, was a specific detail she shared. Rather than focusing solely on recovery or long-term health, Erika reportedly mentioned feeling concerned about Charlie seeing her internal organs during the procedure. For some viewers, that comment felt unexpected. Online clips of that moment have circulated repeatedly, with people debating its meaning. In more recent interviews, the tone appears to shift again. Erika has since said that she and Charlie always envisioned having 4 children. Critics point out that this contrasts with earlier hesitation. Supporters counter that family goals can evolve over time, especially after major life changes. Still, the contrast between past uncertainty and current certainty has drawn attention. Her public life after Charlie's passing added another dimension to the conversation.
Whose kids are these? Erika Kirk provided this as proof of where she was September 9th.
Shocking new footage just surfaced of Erika talking about rented babies.
Erika consistently emphasizes that motherhood is central to her identity. She speaks about family values and encourages women to consider the importance of building a home life. At the same time, some observers note that her children are rarely seen publicly. Of course, many parents intentionally protect their children's privacy. Not sharing daily updates online is completely normal. However, critics argue that given her busy interview schedule, frequent travel, and high-profile appearances, it raises practical questions about balance. Soon after Charlie was no longer present, Erika stepped into a major leadership role at Turning Point. The transition appeared swift. She began traveling nationwide, speaking at conferences, and representing the organization publicly. Supporters describe this as strength under pressure. They view her actions as continuing Charlie's mission and demonstrating resilience. Critics describe it as a rapid rebranding. They say the shift from behind-the-scenes spouse to full executive presence happened almost overnight. To them, it feels less like gradual growth and more like an immediate pivot. All of these elements, the debated photo, the C-section commentary, the changing language about family size, and her evolving public role, have combined into a broader online discussion. None of it has been conclusively proven either way. Yet in today's digital culture, small details often take on amplified significance when replayed and compared side by side. Just as the timeline debates seemed to reach a peak, another layer began drawing attention. This time, the focus shifted to patterns in communication. Viewers began comparing interviews from before and after Erika assumed leadership. Earlier appearances presented her as primarily focused on home life and supporting her husband. She emphasized privacy and protecting her family. That was the tone many remember. More recent interviews carry a different energy. She speaks confidently about strategy, organizational goals, and expansion plans. Supporters argue that major life events can reshape a person's role and outlook. Leadership often brings visibility. Growth is natural. Critics, however, say the transformation appears almost seamless. They question how someone who prioritized complete privacy during pregnancy could so quickly adapt to frequent travel, media appearances, and public leadership. To them, the shift feels immediate, rather than gradual. There's also ongoing discussion about visibility versus protection. Erika has repeatedly stated that her children's faces will not be shown publicly for safety reasons. Many public figures make the same decision. Still, skeptics ask why motherhood remains a central theme in speeches and interviews if privacy is the priority. They argue that referencing the children keeps them part of the narrative, even without showing images. Another point frequently mentioned involves travel logistics. Erika's schedule since taking on her new role has included conferences, fundraisers, panels, and cross-country appearances. Critics question how that aligns with being physically present with very young children. Supporters respond that countless working mothers manage demanding careers while raising families, and that public visibility doesn't automatically reflect private routines. At this stage, the discussion remains divided. Some believe the scrutiny is excessive and driven by online overanalysis. Others feel the timeline gaps and shifting messaging deserve clearer clarification. What's undeniable is that people continue examining every interview, every post, and every detail, searching for consistency. As long as questions remain unanswered to everyone's satisfaction, the conversation is unlikely to fade. Online communities don't look at one detail in isolation. They stack everything together. They study travel schedules. They compare event dates with statements about daily routines. They replay phrases like, "I'm with my kids every moment I can be," and ask how that fits into weeks packed with flights, conferences, and media appearances. In the digital age, nothing stays surface level for long. There's also been noticeable discussion around emotional tone. In the weeks following Charlie's passing, Erika's social media reflected visible grief. She shared emotional tributes, heartfelt messages, and vulnerable moments that resonated with many people. Supporters saw sincerity and pain. It felt raw and immediate. Then, over time, the messaging evolved. Posts that once centered on mourning gradually shifted toward policy, leadership, and long-term mission. The tone became sharper, the language more strategic. For supporters, that shift represents strength and forward movement. For critics, it looks like a calculated pivot. The difference in interpretation depends largely on perspective. Consistency is another issue people raise. In earlier years, Erika described herself as someone comfortable behind the scenes. She emphasized traditional values and focusing on family life. Now, she leads a national organization, speaks on major stages, and regularly appears in high-profile interviews. That contrast fuels ongoing debate. Some see growth shaped by circumstance, others see a narrative adjustment. There's also a broader perception battle unfolding. Many believe Erika is being unfairly scrutinized simply because of her public role and what she represents. They argue that critics are dissecting every image and every sentence, transforming minor inconsistencies into dramatic theories. Grief, leadership, and parenting are complex experiences. No one navigates them perfectly. On the other side, some argue that public figures who build platforms around authenticity and family values should expect detailed examination. When timelines feel unclear or messaging changes over time, they believe questions are reasonable, not accusations. Questions. That tension between those viewpoints is what keeps this story active. One side sees resilience and adaptation. The other sees branding and message control. Neither side has presented definitive proof that resolves the debate, so the conversation continues. What intensifies the situation is how closely it connects to identity. Erika's public image now centers on motherhood, faith, leadership, and legacy. When observers perceive inconsistencies in any of those areas, they don't just question a single detail. They question the overall foundation of the story being told. At this point, it's no longer just about a photo or an old caption. It's about trust. Do people believe the public narrative fully reflects reality, or do they feel pieces are missing? Until clearer documentation or clarification addresses lingering doubts, speculation will likely persist. Social media rarely lets old content fade. Posts resurface, clips are replayed, interviews are compared side by side. At the same time, Erika has increasingly encouraged young women to prioritize building a family over pursuing long-term career ambitions. That message has become central to her platform. She speaks about traditional roles, motherhood, and not delaying family life. Critics quickly highlight a contrast. Erika herself earned multiple degrees, launched businesses, and built professional momentum before marriage and reportedly having children in her 30s. That timeline doesn't invalidate her perspective. Life paths evolve, but some observers feel tension between her biography and her advice. They argue that her own journey included education, ambition, and entrepreneurship before focusing on family. Now, the messaging emphasizes stepping back from professional goals earlier. For critics, that contrast adds another layer to the broader debate. When people zoom out, they connect multiple elements: the pregnancy timeline discussions, the resurfaced filming caption about baby rentals, the alibi photo scrutiny, the evolving explanations about C-sections and future family plans, the swift transition into executive leadership. Each element individually may have reasonable explanations, but when viewed collectively, some say the pieces feel complicated. That's where more extreme theories begin circulating. A small but vocal group online suggests that the entire public narrative, from marriage to branding to family presentation, was carefully structured from the start. They use dramatic language to describe it. It's important to note that there is no verified evidence supporting those claims. Still, once such ideas enter the digital conversation, they spread quickly. Part of what drives those theories is the perception of organization. The messaging often appeared polished. Personal life and professional positioning seemed aligned. Supporters interpret that as clarity and purpose. Critics interpret it as calculated presentation. The same details generate opposite conclusions depending on the viewer. Some commentators have even speculated about whether Charlie himself ever felt conflicted about the public direction of their lives. There is no confirmed proof of that. It remains interpretation based on speeches, interviews, and perceived tonal changes over time. Yet in an environment where every pause and expression is analyzed, subtle moments can become headline topics. Right now, the situation sits in a space shaped more by perception than verified evidence. Supporters continue to defend Erika's leadership and personal choices. Critics continue to highlight perceived inconsistencies. Both sides remain active, and neither appears ready to step back. As long as questions linger without universally accepted answers, the discussion will likely continue evolving. In today's digital world, narratives are rarely settled quickly. It's important to step back and keep perspective. Public figures rarely live simple, one-dimensional lives. They evolve, they adjust. They respond to pressure, opportunity, and changing circumstances. Messaging shifts, roles expand, responsibilities grow. None of that automatically signals deception. Growth can be messy, transitions can be abrupt, and grief, leadership, and public life can overlap in ways that are hard to fully understand from the outside. At the same time, when someone builds their entire platform around authenticity, transparency, faith, and traditional values, audiences tend to hold them to a very high standard. People expect alignment between words and actions. They expect consistency across interviews. They expect timelines to make sense. So when even small gaps appear, those gaps get magnified. not necessarily because there is wrongdoing, but because the brand itself promises clarity. Right now, the conversation surrounding Erika isn't just about children or old captions or specific photos. It has evolved into something much broader. It's about credibility. It's about whether the public feels like they're seeing the complete story or just carefully selected chapters. Some viewers believe the internet has taken a handful of ordinary inconsistencies and stretched them into something dramatic. Others believe the unanswered questions deserve direct, detailed clarification. The truth is, both sides feel strongly. Supporters argue that grief changes people. Losing a spouse forces rapid growth. Stepping into leadership during a difficult season requires strength and focus. They say it makes sense that her tone shifted from emotional to strategic. They say it makes sense that privacy boundaries tightened around her children. They see resilience. Critics, on the other hand, point to patterns. They highlight how the emotional tone transformed quickly. They revisit earlier interviews where she emphasized staying behind the scenes and compare them to her current high-profile leadership role. They connect the pregnancy timeline debates with the resurfaced filming caption. They examine statements about family size that appear to shift over time. Individually, each piece might seem small. Together, for them, it creates a picture that feels incomplete, and that's where trust becomes the central issue. In today's digital world, trust is fragile. Once people begin to question whether messaging is curated too tightly, they start re-examining everything. Old clips resurface, archived posts get compared side by side. Tone changes are dissected frame by frame. It becomes less about one specific claim and more about whether the overall narrative feels stable. Another factor driving this debate is the contrast between Erika's biography and her current messaging. She earned degrees. She built businesses. She established herself professionally before marriage, and motherhood reportedly entered the picture. Now, her platform strongly encourages young women to prioritize family early and not delay building a home life. That shift doesn't invalidate her advice. Life experiences often reshape priorities, but the contrast fuels discussion. Some observers feel she is speaking from experience, sharing lessons learned. Others feel the message doesn't fully align with the timeline of her own journey. That tension adds to the larger credibility conversation. It's not just about what she says, it's about whether her story supports the message in a way that feels cohesive. Then, there's the leadership transition itself. Stepping into a major executive role shortly after a personal tragedy is no small thing. Supporters see courage and commitment. Critics see a move that appeared extremely smooth, almost pre-planned. Again, interpretation depends on perspective. In high-profile environments, leadership vacuums get filled quickly. That's normal in organizational structures. But when it overlaps with ongoing narrative debates, it naturally draws attention. What makes this situation especially intense is how deeply it ties into identity. Erika's current public image rests heavily on motherhood, faith, tradition, and legacy. When people feel uncertain about any one of those pillars, they don't just question a detail. They question the foundation. And when the foundation feels shaky to some viewers, speculation multiplies. Social media amplifies everything. A caption from years ago can resurface overnight. A short clip can be replayed thousands of times. A single phrase can be dissected into multiple interpretations. In that environment, even ordinary human inconsistencies can start looking like deliberate strategy. That doesn't mean the theories are accurate. It means perception moves faster than clarification. There's also a broader cultural layer here. Public figures who speak strongly about values and morality often face heightened scrutiny. Audiences expect them to embody the standards they promote. When messaging evolves or appears selective, critics are quick to react. That dynamic isn't unique to Erika. It's a pattern seen across many public personalities. The higher the moral positioning, the higher the expectations. At this moment, the debate remains unresolved. There is no verified evidence proving large-scale deception. There is also no single explanation that has satisfied every skeptic. So the conversation continues in that gray space between certainty and doubt. Some believe this is a classic example of the internet constructing a narrative out of partial information. Others believe the partial information exists because important context hasn't been fully clarified. What's undeniable is that scrutiny hasn't faded. Every new appearance, every interview, every speech now gets filtered through everything that came before it. People listen for consistency. They watch for tone shifts. They compare present messaging with archived statements. And as long as perceived inconsistencies remain, the speculation will keep circulating. It's also worth remembering that public life is complex. Personal tragedy, leadership pressure, and family responsibilities overlapping at once can produce changes in tone and behavior. Growth can look like reinvention. Reinvention can look like rebranding. From the outside, those lines blur easily. So where does that leave things? It leaves the public in a waiting position, waiting for clearer answers, waiting for stronger documentation, waiting to see whether future statements bring alignment or introduce new questions. In the digital era, unanswered questions rarely disappear quietly. They either get clarified or they get amplified. Now, I want to hear your perspective. Do you believe this entire situation is simply internet overanalysis, where ordinary changes have been magnified into something dramatic? Or do you think there are still major pieces of the story that haven't been fully addressed? Let me know what you think in the comments. Your take matters, because conversations like this are shaped by collective viewpoints. If you found this deep dive helpful and balanced, make sure to like the video so it reaches more people. Subscribe if you want continued coverage of complex public stories broken down clearly and thoughtfully. Share this with someone who's been following the debate so they can weigh in too. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.